With the announcement of Doctor Who not returning to our screens until early 2020, making the only episode to air in 2019, the New Year Day special, has gained a mixed response. Many say it's normal for a show to have yearly gaps, and some state it as the death of Doctor Who, slightly dramatic. So let's look back at the history of Doctor Who's broadcast and see how it compares to now. From 1963 to 1969, 253 episodes of Doctor Who were broadcast. This covers the entire First Doctor and Second Doctor eras. During this time, Doctor Who was off the air for a minuscule 36 weeks. To put it in perspective, in 1964, Doctor Who aired every Saturday except for 6 weeks. This continued into 1965 with another 6-week gap. In 1966, there was a 7-week gap. In 1967, an 8-week gap. And in 1968, a 9-week gap. After Patrick Troughton's regeneration, there was a 6-month wait until Jon Pertwee arrived on our screens. That's 27 weeks, which must have felt like forever to the children of 1969, especially considering in the entirety of the 60s run there was only 36 weeks off air. From 1970 to 1979, 270 episodes of Doctor Who were broadcast. In the early 70s, we start to see some uniform in the broadcast dates. The season premieres in January and concludes in June. In 1970 and 71, there is a 27-week gap. In 1972, broadcast starts a week earlier in December, making it only a 26-week gap. And in 1973, there was a 25-week gap. The Pertwee years was probably the most consistent broadcast Classic Who ever had. Gaps were only pushed a few weeks around and that was it. There were almost as many weeks in the year with episodes as there were without episodes. With the announcement of Tom Baker to portray the Doctor, broadcast starts getting wild, generally receiving 2 seasons a year. A season beginning around September and ending in March, then repeating that schedule. After a 28-week gap after season 11, season 12 aired in the final week of December and continued until May 10th. After that, season 13 aired only 15 weeks later. Season 14 after 25 weeks, season 15 after 21 weeks, season 16 after 24 weeks, season 17 after 26 weeks, and season 17 completed in January 1980. To say the 1970s was alive with Doctor Who is an understatement. The amount of content they produced was incredible. From 1980 to 1989, 172 episodes of Doctor Who were broadcast. Broadcast dates in the 1980s were a complete guessing game. For the first time in Doctor Who history, it was taken off its Saturday night slot. That means during this time, Doctor Who could air on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or even a Saturday. Season 18 aired after a 32-week gap, making it the longest broadcast gap in Doctor Who history at that point. Starting with season 19 through to season 22, the show generally premiered in January and concluded in March. Season 19 aired Monday and Tuesday nights. Season 20 aired Tuesday and Wednesday nights, except for part 1 of Arc of Infinity, which aired Monday the 3rd of January. Season 20 aired Thursday and Friday nights, except for Resurrection of the Daleks. This series was originally intended to be a 4-parter, but was condensed into 2 double-length parts in order to work around the broadcast of the 1984 Winter Olympics. With Colin Baker's first season, season 22, Doctor Who returned to Saturday nights. The gap between season 22 and 23 was a 74-week gap. This gap was so large because the BBC decided to push the series back a year due to financial issues. This was also due to the BBC controller Michael Grade, who disliked Doctor Who. There were many reasons for this gap that are too long to discuss in this video. But thanks to this break, we have the classic single Doctor in Distress by Ian Levine for all of us to enjoy. For the final few years of the classic series run, the show aired in the latter half of the year, generally around September until December. Sylvester McCoy's first foray into the role of Doctor Who, which was season 24, occurred 42 weeks after season 23. Season 25 aired 42 weeks later, and the final season of the original series aired only 34 weeks later. Doctor Who was officially cancelled after 1989 and returned briefly for the 1996 Paul McGann movie. This was a 374-week gap. Now we jump to 2005, and Doctor Who is back on the air after 459 weeks, which is officially the longest break in Doctor Who history. From 2005 to 2009, a total of 59 episodes were broadcast. Between 2005 and 2008, Doctor Who generally aired between March and July, and a Christmas special has also aired each year from 2005 to 2018. Between Series 1 and the Christmas special, there was a 27-week gap, and Series 2 aired 14 weeks after that. Between Series 2 and The Runaway Bride, there was a 24-week gap, and Series 3 aired 12 weeks after that. Between Series 3 and The Voyage of the Damned, there was a 25-week gap, and Series 4 aired 13 weeks after that. The Christmas special, The Next Doctor, aired 24 weeks after that. After Series 4, the schedule began to change again. In 2009, 3 specials were aired throughout the year to send off the Russell T Davies era, and move into the new production team headed by Stephen Moffat. Between The Next Doctor and The Planet of the Dead, there was a 14-week gap. Waters of Mars aired 31 weeks after that, and the first part of David Tennant's Swan Song aired Christmas Day, 4 weeks after that. The conclusion of that story aired a week later on New Year's Day. Throughout the Russell T Davies era, there was a very consistent schedule, bar 2009. The audience was generally aware of when it would be broadcast, and the 2009 specials, which was quite an oddity at the time, was nothing compared to what was to come. From 2010 to 2019, a total of 94 episodes were broadcast. Matt Smith's first season as the Doctor aired 12 weeks after The End of Time Part 2, and the Christmas special came 37 weeks after that. Series 6 aired in 2 parts. The first half aired 16 weeks after A Christmas Carol, and the second half was broadcast 11 weeks later. The Christmas special aired 12 weeks later. This gap between seasons was only the beginning. The first half of Series 7 was broadcast 34 weeks after The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, followed by a Christmas special, The Snowman, which aired 12 weeks later. The second half of Series 7 aired 12 weeks later. For the 50th anniversary, The Day of the Doctor was broadcast on the 23rd of November 2013. This was 26 weeks after Series 7 concluded. Matt Smith's final episode broadcasted only 4 weeks later. The Matt Smith era was a bit confusing with their schedules. It started off okay, and then it just slowly started to make no sense. But the future did look promising. Peter Capaldi's first season was broadcast 33 weeks after The Time of the Doctor, and the Christmas special aired 6 weeks later. 37 weeks later, Series 9 broadcast, with the Christmas special airing 2 weeks later. This was the first time since 2008 we received 2 full seasons back to back. This tradition was quickly broken by not airing a full season in 2016 and only having a singular Christmas special. The gap was 52 weeks, the longest gap in the revived series so far. Series 10 aired 14 weeks later, followed by a Christmas special 25 weeks later. Jodie Whittaker's first season as the Doctor aired 40 weeks later, with the New Year's Day special airing only 3 weeks later. That is the long history of Doctor Who's air dates. It shows a history of vast quantity, years of nothing, gaps short and long. It's the history of inconsistency, and we're facing another year gap. There may be very good reasons behind the scenes for the 2019 gap that we are unaware of. There are many arguments for it. You look at American shows which pump out double the episode count and manage to release yearly or even twice a year, which are producing either higher or equal quality to Doctor Who. We can discuss budget differences and manpower, etc., but this video really isn't about that. People are allowed to be upset that their favourite show will be returning for another year, since it has become a recurring sense of uncertainty.
You're joking. Not another one?
But there are also probably very good reasons as to why the show isn't airing this year. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, or follow me on Twitter for more Doctor Who absurdity. Or even on YouTube, because this video is airing on YouTube, and I should be pushing that.